my co-founders and I act as like fractional executives for our members and doing kind of whatever needs to get done, right? And a lot of that's focused on product and partnerships, et cetera. And it's a pretty simple model where we dedicate hours each month to each of our members, and I like that for a lot of reasons. It helps us stay really connected and involved into what the businesses are doing.
From freelancing and agency roots to architecting a distribution network for WordPress products, today's guest is reshaping how tools find the right audience. Welcome to WP Legends. I'm Gautam, the co-founder of Seahawk Media. My guest today is Jonathan Wold, a long-term WordPress strategist and the founder of Guildenberg, an accelerator and distribution platform helping WordPress products founders solve one of their ecosystem's toughest challenges, getting great tools in front of the right users. Jonathan's journey spans nearly 2 decades in the WordPress ecosystem, starting with client and agency work, moving into enterprise and ecosystem consulting, and now focusing on building a neutral, host integrated distribution layer. Gutenberg's vision to create an app store like experience for WordPress that aligns incentives for developers, hosting companies, and end users while keeping the open source spirit alive. Today, we'll explore how Jonathan's unique vantage point on the WordPress economy led him to his bold vision, the gaps he believes need solving, and what the future of the product discovery could look like in a more connected ecosystem. Jonathan, welcome to WP Legends.
Thank you, Gautam. I'm not sure that I can live up to that opening, but we'll do the best that we can.
Listen, I want to say something before we begin. You've been dancing with WordPress way, way, way longer than I have been. And I always do my research, whenever I meet somebody, and I was like, how do I not know you personally? Maybe we've been into same work camps or something like that,
We
but
probably
I was
have.
really
Yeah.
excited, 100%, because I can see the t-shirt also there. And I was really excited for this interview and hosting you here. So I would love to know your journey for the first few minutes. Like, how did you begin? When did you find WordPress? Let's start
So
from there.
it's been a little over 2 decades at this point.
Mm,
I was an intern. I did a series of internships right out of high school,
mm,
and I was asked to build a website for someone. They needed a blog, and of course, I came across WordPress. And at the
mm,
time, what I was working on trying to figure out how to do was how do you add a WordPress blog to an existing like PHP based site? Because I already had a site that I'd built and I wanted to incorporate WordPress into it. And I ended up going to the WordPress.org forums. WordPress at this point, I'm not sure if it was even 1.5. It may have been coming up on 1.5. I don't know.
wow.
I don't
Uh,
remember. Um, and I think 1.5 was released around the time I was working on it.
mm,
And I went to the .org forums and I needed help. I wasn't, I was starting to get dangerous as a developer. I was
mhm.
becoming more capable with what I could do, but I couldn't quite figure out how to navigate, like including WordPress into it and getting the theme to match. Like there was a number of things I was trying to do. And
Mhm.
at first, a few of the folks on .org, even then, were a little bit of like, "Oh, you'll figure this out," whatever. But then more people came in. I was persistent, asked questions, and I got help. Matt himself jumped in at one point and like gave a little
Wow.
bit of feedback, and I suddenly felt so I solved the problem, but something else happened to me, which was that I was like, "Hey, this is cool. There's this like community of people around this." And I felt really grateful. So once the experience was done, I don't know where the idea came from, but I just decided that I would like write about the experience. So I wrote a tutorial on how to integrate WordPress into an existing website.
Mhm.
And I wrote it primarily for myself. Like I wanted to kind of document the experience. And then when I was all done, I dropped a link on the forum post and didn't really think anything about it. About a year later, give or take, I suddenly began to have people emailing me and like reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, you wrote this tutorial. Could we hire you to do this integration for us?" And it wasn't too long after that that I discovered that I was ranking like really highly for like WordPress integration. And for the next couple of years, I had just a steady stream of people reaching out to me from all over the world and saying like, "Hey, can you help us integrate WordPress into this sort of website of ours?" And Yeah, so that was my early experience in WordPress and my introduction to the community from a very early vantage point.
Oh wow, that's unbelievable. But you know, at that time, I still remember like what I vaguely remember. Okay, Drupal was there, Magento was there, Joomla was there, OpenCard, whatever. They're still there, but like they're not there. Like, but
Yeah.
somehow something attracted you to WordPress. Basically, you decided to like just go for it.
Yeah, and I would say that the software was cool, but it was the community that really drew
That's
me
true.
to it. And this was way before I had not yet been to a meetup, so meetups and WordCamps came many years later. But just early on, even being able to go onto the .org forums and have those exchanges, I felt a connection to it that transcended the software. Even though I love the software, it was cool, but it was the
Yeah,
community connections from the
and
beginning
the
that drew me
and the
to it.
name and the name Guildenberg is because of Gutenberg.
Yeah, it's an homage to it's the idea of
Yeah.
the Gutenberg project and guilds, like these old ideas and trying to connect the two.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So Guildenberg, let me understand this, okay? It's not just marketing, it's an accelerator, okay? That's what you would call it. It's an accelerator. And like what existing frameworks or failures, led you to this approach? I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so Guildenberg, it's been a couple of years now, and a really important part of the Guildenberg story is that um, how do I put this best? Like I had an initial idea, but what Guildenberg has become is much more about what my co-founders and I collectively have shaped it to be. So
Mm-hmm.
I did some writing years ago, and there's some core ideas that are still important and relevant to what we're doing, but so much of what's actually happened with Guildenberg over the past couple of years in particular, and its core value proposition today has been this what we as a co-founding team. So my two co-founders today are Tammy Lister and Luke Carbis. And Tammy is she's a core committer and she was on Gutenberg actually. She was the design lead.
Wow.
Luke Carbis is on
Right.
the plugins team. And I have been for a long time, like I guess up until the last couple of years, like sometimes things in life will change you, right? Like I just heard you, congratulations to you for being a new father. And
Yep.
there's these
Yep.
experiences that you go through that will change you. And
Thank you.
I've
Mhm.
always considered myself to be this visionary with this sort of clear sense of direction. And when I started writing and getting these ideas out there that would become the basis of Guildenberg, I had a very clear sense of, okay, this is how it's going to happen. This is what it's going to become. And it was both overly optimistic and really naive, which is, on the one hand, an important part of, like, it can be an important part of a successful like founding experience, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
what Guildenberg has actually become is a whole lot better than that. And it's been because of this me learning to collaborate more effectively as a co-founder, which is can be difficult if you haven't learned some of those skills of how do you work with other people, especially when
Of
your
course.
views like have a
Of
tension
course.
there. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
so
can I can go on and on about it, but that's a separate story. I speak with my co-founder more than my wife also, so like, but we can go on and on about it. And I know what you mean for sure.
yeah. So the way that I would describe Guildenberg today, to go back to the origin is
Hmm.
it's a lot more humble than I would have envisioned originally. Yet I'm actually really happy with it in its current state. And it really has a couple of key components. There is this professional services side of it, which is basically where my co-founders and I act as like fractional executives for our members and doing kind of whatever needs to get done, right? And a lot of that's focused on product and partnerships, et cetera. And it's a pretty simple model where we dedicate hours each month to each of our members, and I like that for a lot of reasons. It helps us stay really connected and involved into what the businesses are doing, and we can do any number of things, and it's a lot of fun. The other part of it is this growing network of like-minded businesses that do like collaborate and work together. Like I love introducing new people to the guild. They start connecting with each other and collaborating on things which we love. And then what I'm excited about, connecting back to the original vision, is that we are slowly but surely starting to create products of our own to support the needs of our members and contribute to that wider vision of like how do we grow the ecosystem as a whole. So it's a lot of
I
fun.
see.
I'm
I
enjoying it
know. I
thoroughly.
know. You identified three big gaps: monetization, competition, and distribution. Basically, I
Yes.
think but I'm curious to understand, like, which one do you think requires the most intervention, basically, because I think whenever somebody launches a new plugin in the ecosystem, even though it's the best plugin, it could be security, it could be forms, it could be anything. But what about distribution? How will you get customers? This is not
Yeah.
so. Would you say it's that, or would you think it's monetization? Like,
Uh,
what do you see
so
repeatedly?
mo monetization is an important one, but we're slowly but surely getting better at that as an ecosystem. There's a lot of, we're learning a
Hmm.
lot more from the world of SaaS, and
Hmm.
you have people that are doing a good job of innovating on that side. So I would say on the whole, the distribution is the primary challenge that's faced, especially by the products. Like, because keep in mind, as you're well familiar with, you work with hosting companies and product companies and agencies, et cetera. We work with all three of those. Most of our focus is on product companies, and for product companies, the primary problem is distribution, right?
I see.
So,
Mm.
and within that, that is, at least from my perspective, is simply a an important trade-off of a decentralized ecosystem. Like, it's going to always
Hmm.
be there. Now, I think that you can't just like fix it. You can't just solve it at a core level, but there's a lot that you can do to mitigate it, and that's where a lot of our work comes in on like the partnership development side and teaching people how to build partnerships.
The cool part is I saw your site and I saw a couple of logos. So we have some common friends. Great. Tom Finelli from Convezio. We have a lot of common friends, for sure. And I know in and out, like even at Seahawk Media, like what challenges we face as an agency.
Sure. Yeah.
There's so many, and monetization, of course, because you have to pay the bills at the end of the day. You have to pay your team's salaries or whatever. But yeah, everything is linked to each other. I totally agree with you 100%. So I want to understand, do you go to events like WordCamps, CloudFest, etc., right? Are you like
Yeah.
very regular? Is that helping you and the guild both, or when you go is basically for building up the guild? I'm curious to understand that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I have the privilege of being involved in a number of events, and this is the cool thing about having co-founders that are across the world. So Tammy's in the UK, Luke's in Australia, so we have a lot of coverage of different locations, right? But for me
Hmm.
personally, I go to CloudFest. I was at CloudFest in Europe back in March, and I'll be at the one in November in Miami. I'm driving out to WordCamp US in a couple weeks. I consider so WordCamps. To answer your question, like yes, they're good for business, but for me, it's actually just more about like connecting with the folks that we're already working with, meeting new folks. It's a I don't know, there's something about connecting with this like the pulse of the community, and each one's
True.
different, right? Like it's what the experience that you're going to get at WordCamp US is going to be quite different from WordCamp Europe. I actually
Of
love going to the
course.
smaller WordCamps as well. What I've noticed over the
Yeah.
years is that the big ones have evolved to become more of like a meta about the business of WordPress, whereas the smaller ones tend to be more focused on like end user experiences, and they're more of like a bigger meetup. At least some of the ones that I've been to. But yeah, I really enjoy the events, and at least for me, events have been more of like the past 6, 7 years of my time in the community. So that's where I
Gotcha.
got to start meeting a lot of people in
Me
person for the
too.
first time.
Me too. By the way, I'll be seeing you in Portland in person. I just
I'm
realized that.
excited. That's going to be great. Yeah,
Yeah, I was there last year, and I must say the coffee at WordCamp Portland was really good. I think one of the best out of all WordCamps I've ever been to, and I need good coffee for talking throughout the day and having the best conversations, which are not at the booths, which are not it's always in the hallways or some hotel lobby bar or something
I
like
think
that.
the locals will be happy to hear that because Portland natives are pretty proud of their coffee, which they need for all the rain that they get throughout the year.
WordCamp people should give me an award this time or some sort of like, I should charge them for whatever I'm doing because every episode I educate our viewers how important going to WordCamps are, even the smaller ones,
Yeah,
because the smaller ones are like more controlled, lesser people. And I can share this, and I think I've shared this publicly in one of my podcasts also. My largest ever contract at Seahawk Media was because of a tiny, tiny WordCamp in Boston, like a super
that's
tiny
cool.
WordCamp with 5 booths, and it's still one of our largest contracts ever. So you never know. And that was just a conversation, which I never thought could lead to like a very big contract. That's what I can say.
That's cool.
So you,
That's awesome.
yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, I believe, and I always tell people, and you're also saying this, like everybody should go to WordCamps and WordCamp Basel. Yes, completely different vibe. Very noisy though, WordCamp Basel, but it was a really good vibe. And next one is in Poland and then Mumbai, India. Have you been to India, by the way?
I have not yet. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh my God. Okay, you have to book WordCamp Mumbai, and that is a very good opportunity for you to go to India, okay, and explore the great food, the sights and sound, the hospitality. And if somebody hasn't been to India, you must book WordCamp Mumbai and book your itinerary and plan a week or 10 days with your family or whatever, just around it for
Yeah.
sure. Do that. My
That is
my
actually
co-founder,
one of the, no, please
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Before you say, my co-founder Ryan, he visited India for the very first time after we married our company 6 years ago, and now he's there 3 months a year. So you never
It's
know.
actually one of the things that I've enjoyed most about being in the WordPress community. I travel with my wife, and
Mhm.
being able to just go to these different locations around the world and experience it, like
So
it's I don't know, it feels it's an incredible benefit of being in this like global ecosystem of being able to
gotcha.
experience things. Like I've been to Australia like 5 times already back from my agency days. And I probably wouldn't have ever had the chance to do that except for being a part of this ecosystem. So
I
it's
love
been
it.
amazing.
I love this part about WordCamp especially. Anyways, back to Guildenberg. So you speak with so many hosts. I know hosts also. We have seen so much competition, fierce competition happening. And
Yeah.
what do you think is going to be the biggest progression which is going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years, especially with AI and now that people are getting more educated in the managed WordPress world, and but I wonder because so many hosts are popping up, and then agency host, agency, 50 websites, 100 websites. What's going to happen? Do you think there's some going to be consolidation or something in the next couple of years? What do you feel? What's your feeling?
Well, well, consolidation will continue to be inevitable. It's just a
Mm,
part of what happens in an ecosystem.
mm,
Yeah, hosting is a really interesting thing. So first, I think that the fact that we have so many hosts is an important part of the resilience and I guess the overall value
mm.
of the ecosystem. A host can really cater a product to the needs of their audience, to their locale. I think WooCommerce has always been a great example of this because I worked at WooCommerce for a period of time, a
I
number of
saw.
years back. I was at Automatic, and
Yeah.
one of the things I got to see in that context is as we were competing with Shopify. Shopify is a much more homogenous, focused. Like there were parts of the world where Shopify just couldn't really get any traction, and WooCommerce was really thriving. And one of the reasons why
So,
WooCommerce could thrive is that the local hosts were able to adapt Woo and make and focus on the integrations and the support that was necessary to ensure success in that market. And
so,
that's a big part of where I think like why we have such a diverse ecosystem there is that a host can
so,
spin up and focus on adapting to the needs of their particular audience. To your question about where the next couple of years go, yeah, I think consolidation is natural. What I'm more interested in is how the relationship between the WordPress product and the host evolves. Because WordPress itself, we have 6.9 and 7.0 coming out soon. There's big changes in that. WordPress itself is playing with core, with AI and core. And I, I'd say the future of WordPress as a product is not to be taken for granted. It needs to evolve. I've believed a long time in this idea of WordPress as more akin to an operating system for creating on the web, right? And I still and at least to me, like that promise, that potential has not been fully fulfilled, and yet still very much can be. And there's a lot of really smart, talented, hardworking folks like working to achieve, like to really help a WordPress
so,
get to the next step. But the key piece is going to be how do the hosts a lot of hosts don't have much like experience with product thinking. Like they're much more a happy recipient of WordPress's success, and they've enjoyed like the demand for it. But if the demand for WordPress lags, or if the product ceases to evolve and adapt to the needs, a lot of the hosts are going to, and I don't fault them for this, but they're going to have to look at other solutions. They're going to look at what else can we offer. So
so,
what's going to be interesting over the next couple of years is how WordPress as a product evolves and how the top plugins evolve. Like we have a new design system coming soon, and what's that going to mean for the ecosystem as a whole? And what I would at least like to see are more hosts creating more productized offerings on WordPress. Managed WordPress was like a starting point, but going beyond that to be more solution centered, to be more like putting these packages of
Like
products
Elementor,
together.
like Elementor is
More,
doing. Elementor is now
yes,
offering
yes,
and making it more accessible to the mass market, so it can go even more
yes.
mainstream. I think so. I think so.
Elementor is really creating an ecosystem of its own, right? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for hosts to do that within the markets that they serve and within the audiences that they're focused on to say, how do we
I
put
like
together
that.
better collections?
I think so also, and I think especially because everybody's now realized that it's been like 2.5, 3 decades now since www, internet boom, web, etc., and all of that. So people are realizing that listen, they need to maintain their website. It needs to be at least 2025, 2000, if not 2026 ready, etc. So I think everybody's wanting a website refresh. And it's surprising that how many non.com domains are getting acceptance now as well. Dot new,
Yeah,
dot IO AI is okay. They've already become like .com level. But think about so many new ones. Dot link, etc. So everybody's trying to understand, and I think Elementor is doing a really good job in trying to go very, very mainstream. And yeah, I think that's going to be massive for us. So I believe Guildenberg's fitting into this entire ecosystem for the next 5 to 10 years at least. You are sorted. You know exactly how you're going to be playing your journey over the next 5 to 10 years. Would you say at least 5 to 10 years? Beyond that is so difficult to think. Also,
Uh, yeah, I'd say so. What's nice about what we're doing with Guildenberg is that the focus is on growing the ecosystem. Like we want to support its growth. We are agnostic and neutral, and we're taking a position of like we believe that when businesses in WordPress do well, that's good
so
for the business, of course, which we care about, but it's also good for the project and it's good for the ecosystem. So for us, we're in a
mhm.
good position to adapt. But like Tammy and Luke are both actively contributing to the WordPress project, and we're looking to do more to support more folks doing that. So we're taking an active role in trying to represent the interests of our members and say, like, how do we make WordPress better for them and then the audiences that
your
they represent?
your work is really tough, I must say, because I know you are trying to sort out a problem which almost every business has, especially in the WordPress ecosystem. How to grow more? What's next? Especially if they're plateaued. I know so
Yeah,
many businesses, they have plateaued and they've tried everything. Probably after this podcast, I will send you a few names and make some intros as well. Because I know so many people have plateaued and they've tried everything from blog, from content marketing to video,
sure.
and maybe you have built a model because of your experience over the years, be it WooCommerce, XWP, I saw, and other things on your LinkedIn. And yeah, so you definitely are trying to do something which is very, very tough, I must say that.
Well, and one of the things, I mean, on the one hand, what I've enjoyed about it is that it's actually pretty simple. The core idea is to help facilitate more people working with each other. Like it's easy for you and I to like talk about, oh, we should do a partnership, right? But like you and your co-founder or your like when you brought your businesses together, you did a lot of work to do that. Like I'm sure that there was a
Of
lot
course,
of that you went through in that process, right? And that's
of
a
course.
that's a much more permanent and long term. Like you brought your businesses together, right?
Yes,
But there's a
yes.
lot of work that people can do to collaborate to become like strategic partners that goes beyond like for a lot of folks, for instance, they might think, oh, we're gonna do a partnership with another product. And so they'll do blog posts and that's great. But like what does it look like to really do it like a deeper integration? What does it look like to like find a product level like way to collaborate together, right? And there's so much that can be done. Most of our work is in just facilitating and guiding that process. It's not that it's secret or it's some magical thing, right? Like in the future, I hope that we build products to make it even more. Like one of the things that's been important for us is that we've never wanted to be gatekeepers. Like that we don't want we want to do the things that we're doing like in the open and in a way that makes it accessible where people can do this themselves, right? And that basic idea is work more with other people in the space. Like one of the ways that you mitigate decentralization is to collaborate, is to find like-minded products, to find hosts that serve a similar audience, and then do the work to figure out how to solve problems and create value for
Yep.
that other audience. The hard part is that it takes time and effort, and oftentimes people don't know where to start, and maybe the right people aren't talking to each other yet. So that's where we play more of a conduit and facilitator role. But at the end of the day, it's the products and the hosts and the agencies themselves. They're doing the hard work. We're just doing all that we can to help make it clear what to do next and help unblock when someone gets stuck on something.
Gotcha. So tell me something, and this is, I'm really curious, and maybe you can help me answer this. Now, with AI happening, and everybody, whether it's Elementor AI, a lot of other plugin companies introducing AI, hosting companies introducing AI page builders, WordPress itself, of course, now also, even though it's not very, very mainstream yet, like, don't you think, I won't use the word fear, but don't you think that WordPress seriously is coming up with a lot of competition because of framework? Wix and Squarespace has always been there, and they're growing also. Shopify is a massive competitor to Woo. I know that, and you also know that. But
Yep.
don't you? What are your thoughts about that, especially with respect to this, with the
Um,
new CMSs out there, lovable,
uh,
so
yeah.
creating
Yeah,
websites
yeah.
like magic. you know?
Yeah, I've played with them, and I think it's actually really important to play with the different tools. I've built some sites on Lovable. Um, so first, I think it's great. I don't have a fundamental problem with these proprietary platforms. I just don't want a
Mm-hmm.
web where they're dominant
Mm-hmm.
and the only option, right? So for me, I love the work that Shopify has done, Wix, Squarespace, driving innovation and creating better, like especially early experiences for website creators. I had an experience recently where I sat down with someone who had built a pretty successful website on Squarespace. They built a proper business, and as I looked at it, and they asked me to do an assessment, and I went through and was making my recommendations and giving them some training, and just helping out a local friend. And as I looked at it, I was like, I can already see the edges of this. I can see where they're going to have problems long term, but it is more than good enough for the job right now. And I recommended to them that they switch to WordPress, but probably not for a year. And
Mm.
because Squarespace was really working for what they needed, and they were someone who wanted to learn, they were curious, they were open. I also knew that in its current state, WordPress would be a step backwards for what they were trying to accomplish. So, what I
Wow.
tried to do was to educate them on here's the gaps that you're probably going to run into. Like right now, what you're doing is great, but there's only so much you can do to customize these flows. Like Squarespace doesn't give you access to the code base. Like you're going to be limited, but that's okay for where you are right now. So for me, I think these proprietary platforms provide a lot of value. What I just don't want, and I think what we have to do collectively, is for people to think that that's all that there is and to not realize that there's a whole world of options where you can own the code, right? You can get help. You can
Yeah.
really
So,
customize it for what you're needing. So I think it's good. We're now at a place where we need to do, like, I'll put it this way.
mhm.
WordPress, I think, a big key to its early success was that 5 minute install at a time where this is way back in the day. It was like you can get a blog up and running in 5 minutes at a time where getting a blog up and running was not actually that easy. So they made it easy. The WordPress project made it really easy for non-technical people to get up and running and empower them. What's happened over the past decade plus is that WordPress has gone far beyond a need for a blog, and it is now
A lot of
days
things. Yeah.
often to get WordPress up and where you need it to be. And I think for this
True.
next evolution in WordPress, we have to be able to go back to that experience. Someone needs to, if we don't have to, but what I'd like to see, and I think hosts are in the position to do this, is get people back to the 5 minute experience. How do you get them to success in five
Like
minutes in
Nintendo.
WordPress?
As easy as playing
Yeah,
a Nintendo.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
super easy,
yeah, yeah.
like pressing a few buttons. But that's a good point. I like that. That's a very, very good point. I think so. And I believe I actually gave an example in one of my podcasts with respect to e-commerce and Shopify. If somebody wants to launch a Shopify store, they only have $100 to their credit card and they're launching some sort of a store and they can't hire a developer. They can't go on Fiverr. They can actually launch a store in under
Yeah.
$100 on Shopify in less than a few hours without
Yep.
going out of the Shopify ecosystem. I think WordPress has to go there to maintain its dominance. That's one thing, of course, and also to make sure that because it grew over time, because the word spread, right? Word spread.
Yeah.
Developers started getting it. So it's the same. It needs to do that. I think so.
But here's the challenge, though, and it's also an opportunity. WordPress is way bigger than any of those platforms, like Squarespace, Wix,
So,
Shopify, in terms of total market share, right?
oh my
So
God,
you
yeah.
can't, and And WordPress is also like it's volunteers that work on it, right? And it's a very small percentage of people that work on WordPress relative to like how many people use it. So you and I can look at Squarespace and Wix and Shopify, and we can look at things and like, man, the onboarding's got to be better. We got to do this, we got to do that, and like it could be easy to make like product level decisions. But part of WordPress's core strength is that it is it's this base that's used by so many, by such a diverse people use WordPress to do so many different things. So you can't just come in and take a like one size fits all approach. That would be counter to the very reason WordPress is so successful. I think
Uh,
the ideal future state is for WordPress's core, especially as we're bringing AI into it, to become a better and better tool for building things. And then for people, for hosts, for agencies, to create experiences on top of WordPress for end users where they don't even need to know it's WordPress. I mean, if they pay attention, if they read, they'll see that it's WordPress. But think about how do you solve problems? How do you create solutions for people using this foundation of WordPress rather than us trying to go in and think we have to fix core and just make it more like Shopify or Squarespace. I'm like, no, I think it's more of like, how do you create something that's a really strong, stable foundation, and people create experiences on top of that, that they get those to the end users. And then
I see.
eventually what I'm hoping happens is people wake up one day, they've launched a new site, it's on WordPress, and then maybe a year later they find out, oh, it's WordPress. I can even customize it further, but they don't need to know that in the beginning. So
I
anyway,
think so.
that's we
Yeah.
could
I think that's a good point, and I think very few people even know like the true capabilities of WordPress. WordPress powers the NASA, White House.
sure,
It
yeah.
powers one-page blog posts, etc. So yeah, it is, and you own it 100%. You 100% own it. It's open source, so yeah, there is like that. But yeah, I think it needs to become super easy, just like Nintendo, when it comes to especially WooCommerce, because I know for a fact, because I did a research for a buddy of mine. I'll just share with you quickly. And he was launching a hoodie store. Okay, he wants to launch a hoodie store in the UK. Okay, and did a research, and 400 sites, 400 competitors. He's going up against. And believe me, 395 had stores on Shopify. Only five had WooCommerce out of the competitors. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you that it
Yeah.
was that easy or inexpensive. But we even saw stores which were doing $10+ million in revenue, and maybe somebody doing even less than $5,000 worth of revenue, and they were all Shopify. So that means that people find
Well,
it challenging with Vue or difficult,
uh,
or I don't know.
actually, the counter to that, it could be that it finds it challenging, but it's actually probably much more about how much Shopify spends on marketing and awareness. Like they
That's
invest
true.
heavily in
Yeah,
in
that's true.
acquisition. Like you don't see ads for WordPress on TV, right? Like you don't see like
No.
WordPress doesn't. This is one of the things about a decentralized ecosystem is let's say that you and me were talking, we had a great idea for a WordPress like ad campaign. Who's going to run it? Who's going to pay for it? And what host is going to be the one that gets recommended? Because there's
Point.
any number of
Point.
hosts you could go to, right? So it's part of what makes it challenging to like how do you coordinate efforts across such a vast ecosystem? Whereas Shopify has a very simple, we're going to spend money on acquiring users. And they do have a good product. I'll give them credit for that. They've also got a lot of money behind them and they spend heavily on acquisition. And with that, and so at least when I was at Woo, one of the things that we saw is that people would start on Shopify, and so it's part of why, like when we had our WooCommerce meetups, if someone said that they were doing something with Shopify, like cool, that's great. What we actually care about is that you have success as a merchant. We want you to have success. Whatever gets you there is what matters. And what I wanted people to know is that when, not if, but when, and I mean if is fair, you get to a point where you've outgrown what Shopify can do, then I want people to make sure that people know that WordPress and WooCommerce is there for them. Right. And that's I think that's the job of us as an ecosystem. It's like, hey, whatever it takes for you to have success. Like I remember someone came to WooCommerce, they had a Shopify store that was doing millions a month, and they were tired of all the fees that they were paying for. So
True.
they were blown away that they could move to Woo. So I think Shopify's growth, they've got a good product. There's a lot of word of mouth for sure. They've also invested very heavily in acquisition, whereas WordPress doesn't have that. It's been like word of mouth and this
But maybe,
vast ecosystem.
maybe now that changes very soon because WordPress.com and .org, they're trying to make sure the difference is completely there. and people are trying to understand that also. People till now could not understand the difference. But I think mainstream people still don't understand that WordPress.com and .org is very, very different from each other. I think over time, everybody will understand that. And maybe the WordPress.com, we'll see remarketing ads all over, just like Shopify. Who knows? You never know, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And part of it too, because WordPress.com is still relatively small compared to like GoDaddy, Bluehost, Hostinger. Like there's a bunch of like
Yeah,
big
yeah,
hosts out there that
yeah,
have
yeah.
the spread of it. It's yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I see GoDaddy ads on a pretty regular basis, but they don't talk about WordPress that much. They focus on their own like
Well, I
custom
only see
builders
GoDaddy
and
AIRO ads now. AIRO.
yeah.
It's following
Yep,
me.
same.
They're stalking
Yep.
me everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're coming up with time. I have a couple of quick fun
Yeah,
questions
please.
for you. First of all, you're based in Idaho. What's the name of your town city? I can't even pronounce it on LinkedIn. So explain to me. I'm so curious. I was trying to find it on the map. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bothering me. Where are you?
So Coeur d'Alene is the
Okay.
town
Coeur
near
d'Alene.
where I'm at now. I know, but I'm actually a Washington resident now, but I'm right on the border. We have two states, Idaho and Washington. So
Okay.
Spokane is where I'm at, the big city here, and then Coeur d'Alene is where, and my brother lives right over there. So like I'm there oftentimes, but Coeur d'Alene is the one. I moved here a little over a decade ago, and I like it a lot up here.
Oh wow. So I have to like figure this out. And you said you're driving to Portland, right? You're driving down to
Yeah,
Portland?
it's about 8 hours. Yeah.
Oh, not too bad. And I
No.
swear to God, I have a direct flight from London to Portland. I don't know how, but British Airways is like one direct flight. So I'm lucky that way. On the other side, my co-founder Ryan Miami from Miami, there's no direct flight. It's going to take him longer to reach Oregon than me coming from the UK. Can you imagine? It's
That's
unbelievable
funny.
how far out the states is. But that's crazy. And I want to know. You meet so many founders. Even I do. Okay, I have my
Yeah.
own insights, which I get from founders. I'm curious to understand. Are there any insights which you have learned and you like to share with the audience, which you learned from founders, which has helped you or helping you?
Mm, man. Oh,
So many, so many.
yeah. Um, you know, it
especially with
is
respect to, especially with respect to scaling companies from 5 people to 50, 200, 200 people. I see so many challenges at my own agency now, going from like
yeah.
4 or 5 people to 70. Any insights which you have seen?
Well, one thing I would say, just drawing from my experience in the conversations, it's on the one hand, it's a lot harder than you think. There's something about I think I don't know if it's courage or hubris or there's something about a
Mm,
founder's like say, okay, we're gonna figure this out, right? Which I respect and admire and experience myself, but it's difficult, and at these various stages of a company's growth. It often requires a reinvention, a figuring out like, okay, we have to change things. And the thing that I've found, at least, is that if you're very clear on your values and on what matters to
mm,
you as an
mm,
organization, as a team, and doing that work, then you can navigate those changes. Because going from 7 to 70 is a big change, right? It's going to affect the culture, it's
mm,
going to affect
mm.
processes. Like there's so much that we could talk about the importance of creating processes and like documentation and working through all of that and making sure that people are in the right seat and kind of all that stuff. But for me, at the end of the day, I think where I've seen the most success and experienced the most is when people are clear on what they value and the basis for their decisions
Mm,
and then consistent with those values. That is the underlying glue that you can use to adapt from 70 to 700 and beyond, right? Of like, okay, what is our core? Like what do we really care about? What are we here to do? And that's what I've observed. And it took me a long time to get there. I used to think it was all about like just the big picture or the vision, the direction. And these days, I'm like, no, I think it's actually just more about being clear on your values. And then, um, are you as a founder continuing to do what you find motivating and interesting that's aligned with those values? And if you are, then you're going to be able to adapt to the new problems that come along and get the help that you need, as you
I
inevitably
like that.
will. Yeah.
I like that. A very close friend and a mentor of mine, and that's Syed Balki. We're part of the WP Beginner Growth Fund, and he has shared very, very similar insights about values. And I believe I agree 100% to whatever you just said. And finally, do you watch any Netflix shows, any podcasts which you like? We can see what
Oh,
excites you.
oh
Non-WordPress
yeah.
stuff,
Non-word. Yeah,
mountain
of course.
biking.
So I like playing games. So I have a number of
Right?
games that I enjoy. Polytopia is one of my favorites. So if anyone ever wants to, fun fact, I heard that you're going to have Tom from Human Made on here soon.
Yeah.
I was once
Yes.
on a live
Yes.
stream for a game that he and I both enjoy called Age of Empires, and we recognized each other in the stream. I'm like, wait a minute, like
Oh
we're
wow.
fr we're from a like a different community and we're in here. So there's a lot of I really enjoyed I've been really enjoying the Apple TV shows lately. Severance was great, and
Oh wow.
there's a
Well, Taron
yeah.
Egerton shows are my favorite for two reasons because he's an incredible actor. Blackbird, the latest one is called Smoke. And the second reason is I go to a Barry's class here, which is like 5 minutes away.
Ah,
And Taron, I met him 3 times and I have a lot of pictures with him also. So that's another reason. So I'm a huge, huge fan of
nice.
Taron Egerton.
That's great.
Anyways, I'm sure we have a lot to discuss. So 2 weeks from now, I'm seeing you in person. So I'm going to book a formal time and an informal time. Are you a coffee person or do you like or a whiskey person or both?
I, I'm actually I don't drink coffee. I'm pretty boring in that regard, but I enjoy all sorts of things. They're always going to have a nice like sparkling water or things like that. So I always will find a thing.
We will find some place and we will catch up in person. I would love to catch up and continue this discussion even more. But thank you so much for being on WP Legends. It was truly an honor to have you here. And I'm so glad I could host you and learn more about you and Guildenberg. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gautam. Appreciate you having me on.